Today's training is antecedent strategies. What do we know about antecedent strategies, you guys? What are we thinking about? They happen before the behavior. That's totally right. Antecedents happen before the behavior. What else do we know about antecedents?
Sort of different things we can change in the environment to make problem behaviors less likely to make desired behaviors.
Okay, yeah. So these are environmental stimuli that we can manipulate as clinicians to make behaviors more likely to happen or less likely to happen. So that's pretty cool, pretty important for our work. Anything else we could think about antecedent strategies? Are they all public things that we can see? No, right? Sometimes they're happening under the skin, right? They're happening in this private environment under the skin. Can anyone think of an example of that? That we might not be able to reliably see what's going on under the skin. And think of motivating operations. Go ahead.
I would say more like medical stuff.
Okay, yeah, medical stuff is absolutely a huge possibility in our work. Especially working with our population, medical issues could be going on and communication isn't very robust maybe in the VIP we're working with. And there's some medical concern going on that might be influencing behaviors that we need to investigate and rule out. What are some other private events that might be happening? That happened to us around 8 a.m., noon, and 5 p.m. Hunger, right? Right? Oh, I get hungry at these times, right? So that could be an antecedent stimulus that's motivating behavior. What kind of behaviors might we see during those times? Okay, yeah, agitation. What other kind of behaviors? And not just challenging behaviors, but what about some good behaviors?
Like food?
Yeah, going to the refrigerator, right? Going to a restaurant, DoorDash, right? There's a lot of response class things going on there, right? A lot of different responses that lead to the same consequence. So very cool. So antecedents. And guys, this training is very important for our work, not only when we're working with our VIPs, but also in our behavior support plan. When we're developing our behavior support plan, there's sections in the behavior support plan that deal with antecedent strategies. So if you're ever sitting down writing a behavior support plan and you get to this section and you see antecedent strategies for so-and-so behavior, my first thought would be to turn to this PowerPoint. And all of these trainings that we do are on YouTube. So check out my YouTube channel, Michael Bart, BCBA. Smash that like and subscribe button. That's right. Hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a video. But guys, I'm joking about that, but I'm being serious that when you get to that section in your behavior support plan, that this could be the PowerPoint that helps you develop your sections and helps you come up with what to put in these sections and then what you're going to be doing with your VIPs while working with them. And of course, all of these strategies need to be individualized to our VIP. They're not just this generic strategy we throw into the treatment plan. They all need to be used with our relationship and with our knowing the VIP so that we can turn them into an individualistic strategy. Okay, any questions about that? So in your behavior support plan, this is where you might turn to get the answers to what to put in the antecedent section. Okay? Anything else to add to this introduction? All right, let's get into it. And I'm standing in the way already. So antecedent strategies have there's two parts to an antecedent. There's two things we need to consider. What are they?
Motivation.
Yeah, motivating operation. So go ahead.
I was just say that and then
Yeah, the SD, right? So there's two things we need to consider that are going on with antecedents. And when both the motivating operation and the SD are in place, and we'll get into what this means in a minute, behaviors are really likely to occur. As clinicians, we could modify one or another, come on in, or both of these ideas to help make behaviors less likely to happen or more likely to happen. what would be, and we kind of understand the reason why we would want a behavior to be less likely to happen, a challenging behavior. What are times we would want to cause behaviors to happen? Go ahead.
Like if somebody's we're trying to teach them how to request for food and maybe they haven't eaten in a while, like the value of food would be a lot higher, and then gosh, I'm so hungry, I haven't eaten. So I'd be more likely to request for food or listen to something.
Yes, so sometimes we want to put the MO and the SD in place so that we are more likely to see behaviors and more opportunities to practice functional communication skills, other kind of social skills, or functional skills. Right? So when we're thinking about skill acquisition, we may want to put the SD and the MO in place to make behaviors more likely to happen. Because when we're talking about a motivating operations momentarily alter the probability of behavior by altering the value of the consequence. And when I first learned the value of the consequence, I didn't quite know what that meant. When it says it alters the value of a consequence, what does that mean to you guys? Maybe you guys have a good explanation for this idea. Go ahead, Mark.
Let's say if you haven't eaten for 3 days and someone offers you a sandwich, you're going to be ravenous for it. But if you just had a big steak dinner and someone says, "Hey, do you want a sandwich?" Not really. So it really depends on.
Yeah, so we went a long time without food. The value of food as a consequence becomes greater. It'll act as a stronger reinforcer on the brain when we contact that reinforcement. So when I go a long time without drinking too, the value of taking a drink goes through the roof. And this happens to me many times. I might go on a bike ride or a run, and I'm or maybe doing yard work, and I'm very hungry and thirsty afterwards. And we might go out to a restaurant, and I'm like, man, that was the best restaurant I've ever been to. And everyone's like, Mike, you are crazy. That wasn't very good. That was okay. But to me, the motivation for that was so high. I was so hungry for doing exercise, which could be a motivating operation for eating as well, that food tasted so good to me. And I think we could all relate to that idea, right? So we can manipulate motivating operations. For instance, if we had a VIP stealing food in a store, how can we alter the motivating operation to make that behavior less likely to happen?
Have them ride the cart so then their hands aren't free.
Okay, so differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, Sue suggests. I like that strategy, Sue. But what else could we do to alter that motivating operation? Go ahead, Natalia. Yeah, we could feed them before going into the store. Great answer, right? So now what are we doing to the value of that consequence? Very much decreasing that, right? So now the value of accessing food is really not very high. Am I going to engage in effortful behavior in order to access something I don't even really need at that time? Probably not, right? So we can alter the motivating operation. It's a great antecedent tactic to make behaviors less likely to occur. If we are working on mands, for instance, or requests, requests for food, we might teach first, or drinks, we may want that motivating operation in place. We would want that value of that accessing food to be very high, so that when our VIPs use the functional communication skills and contact that reinforcement, that's going to cause a very strong effect on that behavior that led there. Right? So we can use our motivating operations to really encourage behaviors or discourage challenging behaviors, we like to say. And the SD, let's not forget about the SD. And when we talk about the SD, what are we thinking about? What is the definition of the SD? It signals what's available. Yeah, signals reinforcements available. So SDs are all around us in every moment, right? What's an SD? What's an example of an SD?
I know there's like a scuba tank example where, like, if pretty sure this is right, but if you're like in the middle of the ocean and you're down, you're diving, and your scuba tank has oxygen, or you don't have any oxygen, you need to access it, then the scuba tank will be reinforcing or accessing the oxygen.
So yeah, if you saw a scuba tank on the ocean floor or something, and you're like, man, that signals reinforcements available, right? I mean, yeah, man.
Who put this
That example is amazing. Okay, go ahead. The Golden Arches, McDonald's,
Fresh donuts.
signals, reinforcement,
That's it. That was it. Man,
signals, reinforcement available.
very similar.
So an open sign, that's very interesting. So that signals reinforcement is available when it's open. Does that mean every time I pass the Golden Arches, I'm going to pull into McDonald's? No, right? Because I might be hungry. And like McDonald's might not signal reinforcement for all of us, right? It doesn't signal reinforcement for me. I haven't eaten at McDonald's in a very long time. But it might signal reinforcement to other people based on their learning history, right? So when we're thinking about SDs, we are SDs for our VIPs, right? When we walk into the program floor or into their homes, they run up to us. They're excited to see us. They're happy we're there. We signal reinforcement for our VIPs is available, right? And that's what we strive for. When we're working on our cases, when we're trying to teach staff about how to develop a strong relationship, what we're ultimately trying to do is the staff and us be a signal for reinforcement, for positive reinforcement. So we can alter discriminative stimuli too to make behavior less likely to happen and more likely to happen. How can we make behavior less likely to happen with an SD? How can we alter SDs?
Don't drive by McDonald's.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we take an alternate route, right? We go another way. And I thought about the open sign. What's the opposite? The closed sign, right? And we use this strategy. We had an individual that was really into going into the kitchen and taking other people's lunches. Kitchen's closed. Put a closed sign on the door, right? So we're altering the SD. And we could promote behaviors by using SD, right? How could we do that? It's not a trick question. Well, how can I pretty much I'm asked it very strangely. What I'm going to do is put the SD in front of them. I'm going to put an item in front of them. If I'm hungry for food, I could put food in front of someone. What happens when you get home from work and you smell that dinner cooking, right? All of these are SDs for reinforcement. So making them available, putting these SDs in the environment is a good way to cause behaviors to happen. It causes behaviors to be, it either increases the likelihood of behaviors or decreases the behaviors of motivating operations, of behaviors to happen. And it also changes the value of the consequence as we move forward. Do you guys have any questions or anything else to add about these ideas? Did I explain it okay? Okay, so guys, when we're working with our VIPs, these are the antecedent things that we are thinking about, changing in the environment, making these changes, using these strategies to make behaviors more likely or less likely to happen. All right, let's continue. And I think this is just going to be a table that describes this idea very well. When we see this S delta, that's a delta sign, that just signals that extinction. It's a signal for extinction. So when we have the SD in place and we have an establishing operation for reinforcement, that means the motivating operation is in place. That is the most likely time behaviors are going to happen. When we have the S delta in place, with reinforcement isn't being signaled that it's available. Maybe yes, when the SD is in place and I don't want the reinforcement, maybe no. And when I could remove the S delta and cause an abolishing operation, that's going to be the least likely time behaviors are going to occur. So the idea could be for challenging behaviors that we want to alter the SD to make it an S delta and also cause an abolishing operation. And we talked a lot about food. But there's so many examples that I could give you about ways ways abolishing operations happen to all of us. And I know maybe not everyone celebrates Christmas, but during the holidays, right? What happens during the holidays, like in the month of December? All our family, we're hanging out. We're at the Christmas party at the Stegmeyer Mansion. We're hanging out with our family. We have party after party we're going to. All this social reinforcement we're accessing. In January, what happens?
We're sick of them.
Give me a break. Give me a break. Unplug that phone. You know, I don't want that reinforcement. I had enough of it, right? So always think that no matter what reinforcement we're speaking about, that we can alter these things for that. Not just about food and not just about drink, but any kind of reinforcement. You guys have any questions about this idea? All right. So guys, when we're going to get into the strategies that belong in your behavior support plan now. These are the strategies that we use. These are evidence-based strategies that we use. These are some of the strategies we use. We could never in an hour review all the strategies that we would use in a behavior support plan. These are just some, and I hope it gets you thinking when you're working with your VIPs and developing your behavior support plan. When we're talking about generic antecedent interventions, what do we mean? Another word for this is default. What do we mean?
Doesn't have to pertain like a function, it just works across the board.
Yeah, so these strategies don't need to follow the function of our challenging behaviors. And these antecedent strategies are really pinpoint for challenging behaviors, okay, guys? So this is all about challenging behaviors. So generic interventions are good for everyone. They're good for all of us, no matter the function of the challenging behavior. Generic antecedent interventions, and you'll see why that's the case when we get into them. When I think about generic interventions, I'm thinking about living a healthy lifestyle. Okay, that is what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about generic interventions. Do I include all of these interventions into my behavior support plan? No, I'm going to pick the ones that my VIP needs the most. And I'm going to help try to build these into their life. And I'm going to individualize them to the VIP in question. Not things that I would like to do, but the things the VIP would like to do. Okay? So any questions about generic or default antecedent interventions? All right, let's get into them. Environmental enrichment. Good for everyone. Making that environment super fun, right? When I have a fun environment, when I'm engaging in really fun times, you know what popped into my head? For you guys that didn't grow up around here, you won't know this, but Play Plaza or Buzzy's Bazaar. It's like no one's having challenging behaviors there. You know what I mean? Remember that? Remember that? Yeah. Laser tag in the basement is great. It's outstanding. Environmental enrichment. When I have a great environment, I don't need challenging behaviors, right? So if I could enrich this environment, provide a lot of reinforcing activities, a lot of enjoyment, a lot of fun, and if I could bring a lot of fun, I'm enriching this environment. And there's effects that we could get into. We don't really need to get into all the scientific stuff. When you're in school, you guys will learn about that. But we're going to increase stimulation, attention, access to tangibles and activities. We're going to give them all the fun. Right? So when I notice a VIP has kind of like, we're working at their house, they kind of are having challenging behaviors, they don't have a lot of fun stuff, they don't have a lot of preferred items, I'm going to enrich that environment. I'm going to make that environment more reinforcing. Environmental enrichment. Any questions? Any comments or stories? Enrich that environment, guys. All right. Antecedent exercise. And guys, remember, it's not stuff that I like, it's stuff the VIP would like. Antecedent exercise. Exercise is good, releases endorphins, makes us feel good, makes us feel better. After you exercise, you feel great. This is a great way to reduce challenging behaviors. Now, this guy's on looks like an effortful run. Does that mean we need to have our VIPs out there crushing marathons? No, no. We could do something that they would like to do. And how many different kind of exercise things are there out there, Sue?
A lot.
Right, like what?
Yoga, Pilates.
Not only yoga, but hot yoga, cold yoga. No, I don't know. But whatever, there's a lot to explore out there for our VIPs. Programming an exercise routine into their life could be a great way to help their health and also reduce challenging behaviors. And they say 3 or 4 times a week for at least a half hour in zone 2 would be a great thing for our VIPs. Going on a walk could be as easy as that. Getting a Planet Fitness membership with the waiver we'll pay for. By the way, guys.
Shared
Bar boxing.
It's just unboxing.
Like the salt bar.
How'd she like it?
You liked it?
Good.
Yeah.
Well, great way to reduce challenging behaviors. And you know, with that, that's a beautiful strategy, Sue, because not only are we helping her try to get to bed earlier and wake up earlier to get here on time, you know, that exercise will help with the sleep. Right? So all great all around. Good job. Nice work out there. Any questions about antecedent exercise? Relaxation. So not only are we exercising, we're teaching our VIPs ways to relax. Relaxation. Engage the person in behaviors that are incompatible with emotional behaviors. Taking deep breaths, listening to calm music, meditating, whatever they would like to explore. We're going to try to engage them in these kind of activities. Relaxation exercises. This person looks like they're meditating, which is cool. Do you guys have any questions about relaxation exercise? And it doesn't have to be like kind of these formal coping skills either. It could be other things that help you relax, like playing a board game, leisure activities. All of these things can help you relax, right? Playing rummy. I don't know why that popped in my head. I just want to play. I haven't played in a long time. Okay, relaxation exercise. Please continue. Cushioning antecedent predictors. Modify events that evoke problem behaviors as to abate problem behaviors. Make them less adversive. So, you know, a lot of times when we're asking our VIPs to do things, we might make it more enjoyable to them. We might make it more fun to engage in this activity. What are ways that you guys make chores more fun for yourselves? Music, listen to music, turn on that podcast. We got that laundry to do. What are some other ways?
Every so often.
Taking breaks, yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, very cool. So we're going to, you know, I was thinking about like shower and hygiene stuff. Like there's like tons of like bathroom things we can do to make that shower, you know, more enjoyable, more fun. You know, toys and things like that. What else? I mean, what else am I not thinking about?
I mean, like better smelling. So.
But, oh yeah.
You like, oh, you like this? Which one do you like better?
Good idea. Yeah, good idea. Yeah, like, and you know, I always think about like, hey, when I get a new item, I want to go and use it. So it's like, let's go shop. Let's go shopping. Let's go out and get some beauty supplies, right? We'll probably start to see that showering behavior probably pick up momentarily. You know, guys, and I missed on this point, but you know, antecedents are very effective to cause behaviors to happen. And we see it so often. We put a new strategy in place. We have a novel staff or a new staff working with the VIP. And they're great. This is awesome. We're seeing such positive behaviors. But what we tend to see is that those behaviors start to regress back to the baseline. And the reason for that happening is that antecedents don't maintain behaviors. Consequences do. So if you guys start to see that in your work, that's a sign that you need to beef up your reinforcement strategies, that there's not enough reinforcement to maintain these behaviors. So antecedents are great. They cause behaviors to happen, but they do not cause behaviors to maintain. Only the consequences can do that. Okay, let's continue. Do not mention bad behaviors. Stop talking about it. We show up and we're an SD for those stakeholders so they can unleash everything that happened between our visit. Shh. Let's talk about it privately. We've scheduled meetings with stakeholders so they could vent to us, private meetings, not in front of our VIPs. Do not talk about challenging behaviors in front of our VIPs. That's not true all the time. Sometimes our VIPs want to be included in the treatment, but just generally speaking, we do not want, if we're working with a mother or father and we come every time and they are unleashing on all the challenging behaviors, what is that VIP going to think when we show up? Are we going to be that SD that we're striving to be? Yeah, exactly. We're going to signal punishments available when we show up, and we're not going to make much progress. We want to be that SD, signals reinforcements available, not signals punishments available. Right? So we try to encourage this. I mean, this is a great strategy in everyone's plan. Don't mention bad behaviors in front of the VIPs. It's not a good thing to do. And I know that's what everyone wants to do when we go out. Schedule a private meeting. Data collection comes in really handy here. Hey, I'll review the data. And let's schedule a phone call to talk about it later, privately. There's other ways to go around this. Don't talk about bad behaviors. All right, let's continue. Medical treatment. Refer the client for medical treatment. I'm finding, especially with our non-vocal folks and people that don't have strong functional communication skills, I'm going to, if they're having challenging behaviors, I'm going to first ask when they've been to a doctor, right? When have they had a last physical? When have they got their teeth checked, their ears checked, their throat checked, everything? Because they could be having a medical concern that no one's aware of, that we see through the challenging behaviors. So please, always think medical. I always do. I see challenging behaviors occur. Sometimes someone's doing really well for a long while, starts to engage in challenging behaviors. My first thought is this: refer this person for medical treatment. We got to rule out from a doctor what is happening here. Once we get the all clear, behavioral interventions could be warranted. All right, let's continue. Non-contingent restraints and protective equipment. Obviously, we would never do this kind of what happens in this picture. But these things may happen in the most serious of circumstances where someone's hurting themselves or other people. This would be a restricted procedure. It needs to be reviewed by the Human Rights Committee. Speaking of human rights is next month. We're going to be talking about it at the next staff meeting, which is on Tuesday. At the think. Non-contingent restraints and protective equipment. Okay. Those are some generic antecedent strategies. What is another generic antecedent strategy that you guys could think about right now that's not in the PowerPoint? Remember, it's all about healthy lifestyles. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Eating right. We're going to try to eat right. We're going to try to encourage small progress to making healthier options. Instead of that burger with the bun, we're going to have no bun. Those kind of ideas, maybe. Depends. But, right, so the generic antecedents are all about this healthy lifestyle, living a healthy life. I will notice that a VIP is not engaging in one of these strategies. I may want to build that into their life. And this isn't the only strategies. There are tons of other ones that we have been taught throughout our lives to live a healthy lifestyle. Even walking in nature. Huge for our mental health and our physical health. I gotta open the door. It's getting hot in a second here. Can you
I'm making a pie bowl with Sharon today instead of taking her out to Burger King or McDonald's. So
can you message Annie and just let her know that we need the air on?
please.
I know Melly's got a key out
I'm about to. I'm buying one. I'm doing it. All right, guys, so those are the generic antecedent strategies. Remember what generic means, guys, that we don't need the function. So we could implement these strategies right away without a functional behavior assessment because they're good for everyone. They're good. These strategies are good for everyone. We don't need to know the function of challenging behaviors to implement these healthy lifestyle changes. And where do these strategies belong in your behavior support plan, Sue? The antecedent section. Very good. Okay, no, we don't have that anymore. Yep. Function-based antecedent strategy. So guys, this is our strategies when we know the function for challenging behaviors. Once we've done a functional behavior assessment, we can then use these strategies based on the function. The first section is all about escape maintain behaviors. That's okay. The first section is all about escape maintain behaviors, or how do we say escape maintain behaviors? What's the hypothesis we would use if we had an escape maintain behavior? Yeah, or automatic negative reinforcement. We're talking about negative reinforcement here. There is the most strategies for negative reinforcement because these are the most likely behaviors to be the most likely function. So the most research has been done on these behaviors because they're the most common function for challenging behaviors, believe it or not. Let's get into some of them. Stimulus fading in, gradually reintroducing a task or demand. When I have to climb Mount Everest, I'm going to procrastinate all day. Thank you. Quick response. Appreciate that.
Always, especially when it comes to temperature.
That's right. We want to access that reinforcement.
Amen. Okay, 74 here. I set it to 70.
Thank you. I already hear it. Okay, stimulus fading in. We're going to gradually reintroduce the task or demand. How might we do that? What kind of behavior might we change? Make it easier. It could be anything, guys. And there's not many wrong answers. Well, think about the behavior. Think about a task we might be asking our VIP to engage in. How might I make it easier?
Like backwards chaining.
Yeah, so I'm thinking a lot about chaining here. Yeah, so a TA, and I might ask them to do the last step of the task. I think about school too. Like the teacher asked us, I remember like getting that like math sheet, and it'd be like 100 questions. And the teacher would be like, do all evens. And you'd be like, yeah! You know what right? Right? Andy remembers that. I do too. It was awesome. And that's stimulus fading in. Right? After a time, I'm gonna give them a little bit more to do. Give them a little bit more. Hey, we're gonna wash dishes. I'm gonna take them out. You dry them off and put them away, right? So and then I slowly give them the full task as we do. So I'm gonna gradually reintroduce a task or demand in duration and frequency. All right, let's continue. Graduated exposure desensitization. Right? And we all know about this. It's all about phobias for this strategy. Someone's scared to go to the dentist. Someone's scared to go to haircuts.
Someone's afraid to ride an elevator or escalator.
Elevator, escalator. I'm going to slowly expose them to this. We talk about a doctor's visit. I was reading a book. God, I should reference the book. Oh, man. The Verbal Behavior Approach by Mary Barbera. And she said that she, to get her son used to being in a doctor's office, she set up her house to be a doctor's office. She bought the doctor's outfit. She got the tools that her son was likely to see. And she did it that way in the comfort of their own home. And then slowly showed pictures, sounds. Then they visited the waiting room with no one there. And they slowly exposed the VIP to these conditions. And slowly but surely, they exposed them to these situations. And he was much more likely to go into these environments that were very necessary for his health. And then the one part of this too that we have to remember is relaxation training. So when I would do this with the VIP, they might get very anxious to be exposed to these situations. So I would want to pair this with relaxation, some kind of relaxation exercise, which is one of our generic strategies. All right, let's continue. Curricular instruction and revision, same kind of ideas we talked about before. We're going to make this behavior a bit easier to do. We can alter the timing of it, make it shorter. We can embed demands within reinforcing activities. And Carrie, for our VIP we talked about yesterday, someone, we have these demands in place and we're seeing these very challenging behaviors. When I'm doing something fun with them, they're much more likely to accept demands that I could then reinforce. And when I was working with the VIP that had this escape maintain behavior, terrible behaviors we were dealing with, we would go bowling. I'd be like, hey, can you help me pick out a bowling ball? Hey, hand me the bowling ball. I don't know. We did all kinds of stuff. Hey, and we're out to eat. Hey, pass me the napkin. Hey, pass me the ketchup. I am implementing these demands during reinforcing activities to make them, and then I could reinforce those behaviors. Much more likely to accept demands in the future. Providing assistance, guys, is so huge here. And I feel like, we want to fade that assistance because people will become prompt dependent. But when I could provide assistance, I remember being a kid. When sometimes you would wait. You might have a very difficult task in front of you. You might wait for that teacher or parent to come over and help you out, provide that assistance. And then what? Then we're motoring through it. We're engaged in that behavior that then we could reinforce, right? So providing assistance is huge. When I have a huge task to do, and someone comes and helps me with it, I'm much more willing to do it, right? I'm much more willing to do it. We had to put up a TV mount. My father-in-law, I was like, man, this is tough on my own. I'm going to wait until my father-in-law comes over. He's like a super handy man. Comes over, helps me. I'm engaged in that behavior. Put up great. Providing assistance. Increase predictability. I'm going to just review what's upcoming. What kind of behaviors we expect in that environment. Curricular revisions, we talked about that, making the curriculum a bit easier. Modifying features of the task, we talked about that a little bit too. All right, curricular instruction revisions, making the tasks easier, more inviting. These are some of the ideas that we could put into our behavior support plan. Let's continue. Providing choices. Let the person be in control of some aspect of the task. Type, order, timing, etc. Right? When I give, Andy, you talked about it yesterday, working so well for you out in the field. Difficult situation. There could have been a huge blow up in the field at a store that could have caused a lot of unwanted consequences. We provided choices to the VIP, made a good choice, came out, perfect behavior. Excellent job, Andy. Providing choices. And guys, it's not just a choice like this, but order, type, timing. All of these things we can use to our advantage. Giving the person choice. Do you want to shower before or after program? Time contingent escape. All right, guys. So you guys might have heard this as non-contingent reinforcement. We're going to give, if someone's engaging in escape maintain behaviors, we can give them frequent what? Breaks. And it's a great strategy to reduce challenging behaviors. If we're being delivered reinforcement on a time-based schedule, we are not likely to engage in behaviors that lead to escape. We're already getting it. And you can use the same strategy for every function. Not the break idea, but if we could have time contingent delivery of tangibles, if someone has behaviors to access tangibles, what I'm going to do is give them access to the tangibles they require on a time-based schedule. It's going to greatly reduce challenging behaviors. All right, let's continue. Relocate the client or others. We wouldn't do stuff like this all the time, but it could happen. So maybe someone's overstimulated in the program. We might invite them to the quiet room, a cool down period, or a quiet area. Someone else is bothering them. We encourage that other person to go into another area of the program or another area of the house for a calm down period. Relocation. I think about this real quick with my friend Adam in school. Like we the first year we sat next to each other. And that slowly changed, right? Then we were like across the room from each other, right? Yeah. Oh yeah. And then they like moved us to 2 separate classrooms. We were never in the same class again. Yeah, how mean, right? They should have gradually. Yeah, they should have. Yes. Let's go back there. Let's get back there. All right, relocate the client house. Let's go. Move location of activities, same idea. We're going to get those SDs out of the way. Make them, I saw a VIP at the other program we work at, Brandon. He kept running over to the fridge. Bing, bing, bing. He keeps getting redirected. I'm like, guys, move that fridge. Am I right? Get that fridge out of here. That just signals reinforcements available, right? I know. Let's go. Okay, this is a new slide. Thanks, man. Appreciate the feedback. Pre-max principle. What's pre-max principle? We know it as first then. We're going to encourage a high probability behavior, a behavior that's really likely, that's in our VIP skill repertoire already. We're going to encourage that behavior first, followed by a low probability behavior or the behavior we're working on. First, we're going to do what? First, yes, we're going to first eat our vegetables, and then we're going to have dessert. This, who came up with this strategy? Grandma. And they call this grandma's rule, right? So pre-max principle is actually, pre-max stole it from grandma. That's not cool. But grandma's rule is eat your veggies first, and then we can engage in eating dessert. And the idea is that the high probability behavior, I have this reversed.
I just noticed that. That was just thinking.
That's why it confused me. Sorry, this should be reversed. Sorry about that. So the low probability is followed by a high probability behavior. The high probability behavior serves as reinforcement for the low probability behavior. And guys, what I've learned from reading managerial books and time management books is they teach the same idea. They say, don't come in and read your emails first. Those tasks are very easy and lead to a lot of reinforcement. Read an email, reinforce, done. Reinforce, done. Reinforce, done. So what the time management book says is do your most difficult tasks first. And then follow up with easier tasks. And the easier tasks will serve as reinforcement for the more challenging tasks.
Which still blows my mind because, like, you think that getting through those smaller tasks, easier tasks, would have more time left over for the more difficult ones, but the opposite is true.
The opposite is
All
true.
energy is wasted. Yeah.
First, we're going to brush our teeth, then we're going to read a story. The story would serve as reinforcement for brushing our teeth. The high probability task serves as reinforcement for the low probability task, right? So, and guys, this would work on us too, right? When we do those hard tasks first and then engage in the easier tasks, those easier tasks serve as reinforcement. We're much more likely to do those harder tasks again. We're much more likely to engage in those harder tasks again. So not only for our VIPs, all these strategies could be used on ourselves as well to live a better life, more productive life. Pre-max principle. Sorry, Grandma. Behavioral momentum. And this is kind of like, when I think about behavioral momentum, it's kind of like the opposite to pre-max principle in a way. I don't want to think too much into it because then I just get confused. But behavioral momentum is we have a lot of high probability behaviors. And I'll come over here. Start with a simple known task your child or adult is likely to comply in. And we've talked about this, Brandon, out in the field. Touch your nose. Clap your hands. Provide reinforcement praise for following the instruction. So we can have our VIP to engage in some of these behaviors. Give me a fist pound. All right, touch your head. Nice job, bro. All right, let's do some work here. I don't know, right? But that's the idea. That's kind of behavioral momentum in action. Right? We ask our VIP to engage in some high probability tasks or behaviors that we're likely to see, followed by a more difficult task. And we're much more likely in that moment to see that difficult task get accomplished. Good to go. All right, these are strategies for attention-seeking behaviors. So we have, and guys, all socially mediated behaviors have an attention component. So we have this attention function. These are the antecedent strategies that go along with it. Time contingent delivery. So someone's seeking attention. What can I do? Give them attention on a time-based schedule. I'm going to make sure that they get my attention, that they don't need to engage in behaviors to get my attention. I'm going to give them attention every so often. And guys, these time-based schedules, what's a good time frame to deliver them on? Well, no, because we deliver even during challenging behaviors, because it's not contingent on any behavior. What I do typically here is I see how often they're engaging in challenging behavior, the inter-response time, and I'm going to take 75% of that time, and I'm going to deliver these reinforcements on the 75% time frame. Does that make sense?
Can you give an example?
Okay. Someone engages in calling out in school to get the teacher's attention. And I've recorded that they call out every 10 minutes to get the teacher's attention. I'm going to take 75% of that inner response time, 7 minutes, 30 seconds, and I'm going to encourage the teacher to provide that student attention every 7 minute, 30 second interval. So now we're getting ahead of the behavior and we're providing the reinforcement before behaviors are likely to occur. Was that a good example? Did that make sense to everyone? Does anyone want me to expand on this idea anyway? And guys, remember, this is for every function. For breaks, tangibles, attention, all of this. All right, let's continue. Transfer discriminative control to natural SDs and S deltas for attention. We're going to teach them better ways to get attention. How might we teach a student to get attention? Raising their hand. All right, let's continue. Okay, so there's attention, and you can see how fewer there are. Tangible or activities. These are functions to access. Time contingent delivery of items, right, guys? We're not getting crazy here. We're going to give them stuff they like. I would like to play with that too, right? So I'm going to let them play with the robot on that 75%. And then this will help reduce challenging behaviors to access the tangibles. You guys see what we're putting down with these time-based schedules? All right. And that's it for tangibles. We have automatically reinforced behaviors. Behaviors that are reinforced because they enjoy the result of the behavior. Is there any surprise? Time contingent delivery of stimuli likely to compete with the response products, or behavior or things we're going to give them to hopefully have the same sensation as the challenging behavior that they're engaged in. Skin picking could be a behavior that's automatically reinforced. We might give them something that provides the same kind of, it could be automatically negative reinforcement. So we might want to give them something else that they can use to help deliver the same result, that negative reinforcement. Think about positive reinforcement, automatic positive reinforcement. I engage in putting a massager, that could be for relief too, I get it, but it's kind of hard to determine sometimes if it's positive or negative. But say I like the feel of like the massager on my back, or maybe I like the feel of like hitting myself in the back and I use a massager. I try to replace it with a massager, something like that. All right, let's continue. Time contingent delivery of prescription drugs. I like to spend a little bit more time on this one, guys. A lot of times we come into a case and what do we see? When are medications being administered?
Right after.
Go ahead, guys, you're all right.
Right after,
Yeah, so what do we see? PRNs being going on. So I'm working with the VIP and I see challenging behaviors happening, and then they're given these high reinforcing drugs, right? What do we expect to happen to that behavior? It's going to go up and up and up. And why is this person doing this? I've been going through 30 Ativan every week, right? Well, what could be happening, guys, is that we are reinforcing a challenging behavior by delivering a controlled substance to someone for a challenging behavior. And we have to inform other professionals of this possibility. And we did this with our case on the floor. We talked to the psychiatrist. He prescribed this PRN, and we encouraged the psychiatrist, and he's a real cool dude, thank God, to give the medication on a time-based schedule. And what does that mean?
no matter what they get it at, despite what's going on.
Yeah, 8, 4, and 8, or whatever it is. And I'm not gonna fight the doctor. The doctor knows better than me about medication, guys. I'm going to teach them, encourage them to make that change. It really got cold in there. Now I'm cold. Me too, man. So much. So I'm encouraging my team to change that PRN to a time-based delivery of medication for my VIP so that we could not, and then guess what happens to the challenging behaviors? They should decrease, right? They should decrease because no longer does the person need to engage in challenging behaviors to get some kind of relief. And this isn't something we would want to continue with these controlled substances. We would want to teach skills and do everything so they don't need to take this medication anymore. But if this is a temporary psychiatric intervention to help us get to where we need to be, time-based schedules are what you need to be thinking about. Not a PRN for challenging behaviors. And I've seen it, guys. I've seen it with people. And I'm like thinking in my head all the cases and all the trauma that's going on by giving medications after challenging behaviors are happening. It is not a good practice. Now, doctors override us. I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I'm going to continue and push through because the doctor is the ultimate sayer. I'm not going to fight them or try to think I'm like no better than the doctor about medications and things like that. But in this case, I do. Okay, any questions about time contingent delivery of medication? Does it make sense what I'm putting down to you guys? Okay. Transfer out appetitive features of restraints by fading them out. It's like people, that frequently get restraint. Doesn't happen here very often. Knock on wood, praise be. We had an individual who gouged the back of her neck. We did have restraints on her arms to keep her arms stiff during these times. Over time, we cut the arm restraints to be smaller and smaller until that we faded them out completely. So in the worst case scenarios, we will do things like this to try to get the person through. It's a restrictive procedure again, guys, so we would not just go and do this right off the bat. This is after talking to the BCBA and making sure we ruled out all non-restrictive strategies first. All right, let's continue. That is it. Guys, do you guys have any questions about antecedent strategies? And guys, this is just like a crash course, an hour. We could talk all day about antecedent strategies. Do you guys have anything to add? Was the training useful to help your work? My pleasure. And I appreciate all you guys do as well. I want you guys to take this knowledge and use it with your VIPs, guys. Use it and understand motivating operations, SDs, making those alterations to cause behaviors to be less likely or more likely to happen. Look at this PowerPoint. Look at the YouTube channel. Look at this training again when you're writing your behavior support plan, when you're stuck with the VIP, and find the strategies that are going to work for you. Keep at it. Talk to your BCBAs, talk to your teammates. They're going to help guide you through and keep at it, keep working at it. And thanks for all you guys do. Appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much.